Hey guys, I just want to record a video regarding discussion 2 and supply and demand. So the question here is, it talks about supply and demand and how supply and demand, in a way, they basically create the equilibrium, and it makes it seem as if, oh, supply and demand change and eventually they settle at an equilibrium, and that's it, right? But supply and demand are based on what's called ceteris paribus, which is everything else being equal. And the reality is that in the world, things are always changing. So if you specifically look at the stock market here, remember, demand is that this is a curve showing every individual's willingness and ability to purchase various numbers of goods at a given price. So as the price goes up, there are less people willing and or able to buy a good, right? So that's as the curve price goes up, less people, right? So you're moving in that direction. Probably opposite for you. And then supply is the opposite. So more people that produce things are willing and able to produce at given prices. Now in the stock market, prices are always changing because people's willingness and ability, given varying information, always changing information. There's always new people coming into the market at any given time. That is, people that maybe were sleeping, they wake up, they turn on the news, whatever. News influences their ideas. You've got the price of the stock, price of other things are always changing, right? So there's just all these factors that go into people's willingness, really. They're in the short term, their ability can change as well. That is, if you sold another stock, now you have a greater ability to buy this stock, or you got a raise at work, or whatever it is, right? Get a bonus, okay? So you get a bonus, you dream about putting a pool in your backyard, and then the Christmas bonus turns out to be like a $50 gift certificate to Shoe Warehouse, right? So that's a National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. But anyways, so things are always changing. That's why in the stock market, prices are always moving, because you never get a true equilibrium, if you will. You get equilibriums, that is supply and demand, settle at given prices for very short periods of time. We're talking seconds, maybe, right? So that's why the price is always changing. You always have changes in the demand and supply curves. They're always shifting. There's always movements along the curve. So remember, change in quantity demand is a movement along the demand curve. A change in demand, which is non-price related, anything that's not related to price, if it's related to the price of a good, that's a movement along the curve. That's called a quantity demand, change in quantity demand. If you have a shift of the curve itself, that's some other factor, not price related, right? So, the Boeing jet crashes, they make a payment, they make a lawsuit payout, then that's something that will shift the demand curve for their stock, right? Now, really, the supply of stock that's in existence is pretty fixed, right? However, you have people along that supply curve that are supplying their stock into the market, right? So think of like the antiques. Do you think antiques is a pretty fixed supply of, there's a fixed supply, they have to be like 50, 100 years old, right? So it's not like we can make new ones, we can make replicas, but actually what the Antiques Roadshow did years ago is it caused people to go into their parents' attic and look for antiques. And what that did is it brought antiques onto the market, causing a shift in the supply curve. Now, as far as stocks go, there's a lot of people that own McDonald's stock, whatever, and they're holding on to it, and they're not going to release it into the market until the price hits a certain level. Now, as you have prices going up, people supply more, and right, so you have this supply and demand. But that's where the supply comes from, is people, mainly institutional wealth, right? They have large supplies of stock of various companies, and they can sell at different prices, sell it onto the market. So that's where changes in supply come from, is companies' willingness to sell a stock. As the stock goes up, more people say, hey, I've got stock, I'd like to sell. Right now, housing markets are insane. So thank God we were able to get in where we live 3 years ago, because there was no possibility in the last 2 years we could have afforded anything, right? And a lot of that is we're seeing houses come onto the market that were not on the market previously because the price of homes is going up and people are looking and you're like, I think, is it ready? It's ready to sell. In fact, there's 2 houses in our neighborhood. They're a couple blocks away. They're a little newer, nicer. No yard. Their yard is literally the size of a table. It's about 4 by 8. Okay, and if that, and they can barely fit cars in their driveway. So, but they have maybe a peekaboo view. One sold, went for 20% over ask, I think. Okay, and then as soon as that one went onto the market, 2 doors down, they put their house on the market. Now you don't want to put them on the market at the same time because that's more supply, which could drive down bids, right? Because now people are like, oh, you don't, as long as it's just one house, people really go crazy and they really want to get this house. But now they say, oh, there's another one down the way. I'm going to bid a little bit less, right? So that's why you never want houses on the block to go up for sale at the same time. It tends to drive prices down because it changes people's demand for goods, right? Okay, so that's for that. That's, I think, a pretty good answer for that. No, it does not go against the law of supply and demand. The law of demand is the iron law of demand, basically, right? And that is, as price goes up, people are less willing and able to buy various goods. So, okay, so that's that. And we'll be posting more.